Most men own too many clothes and have nothing to wear. The Viking warrior did not dress to impress. He dressed to signal. Every choice, the weight of the wool, the quality of the leather, the iron at his belt, communicated something precise about the kind of man he was and the standard he held himself to. The Stoics went further. Epictetus, born a slave, died the most respected philosopher of his age, wore a single rough cloak his entire life. Not from poverty, from clarity. He understood that a man who is defined by his possessions is owned by them. The capsule wardrobe is not a style strategy. It is a philosophical position. It says, I have chosen 10 things with great care, and they are enough. Everything I wear is intentional. Nothing I own is accidental. Before the 10 pieces, the principle that governs them. Because without the principle, this is simply a shopping list. With it, it is an architecture. Every piece in a Viking gentleman's wardrobe must pass 3 tests. First, does it last? Quality over quantity, always. A single well-made garment worn for 10 years is worth more than 10 cheap ones worn and discarded. The Norse word for this was dugnader, worthiness, fitness for purpose. A thing must be worthy of its place. Second, does it work with everything else? The capsule wardrobe is a system, not a collection. Every piece must speak to every other piece. If it cannot, it has no place here. Third, does it feel right when you wear it? Not comfortable in the sense of easy, but right in the sense of aligned. The man who wears what he owns with full intention carries himself differently. That is not vanity. That is self-respect made visible. 10 pieces, built on those 3 tests. Here they are. Piece 7 is the one most men own badly, and the one that does more damage to their presence than any other single wardrobe decision. Piece 1. The heavy wool coat. Charcoal or forge black. Structured, below the knee. This is the centerpiece. The outer layer that the world sees first and remembers longest. The Viking chieftain's cloak was the most deliberate statement he made about his status and his standards, not through decoration, but through quality and weight. A heavy wool coat in charcoal or near black. Structured shoulders, clean lapels, minimal details. Below the knee, it commands space. This is not a coat for warmth. It is a coat for presence. The warmth is incidental. Buy once. Own for a decade. Everything else in the wardrobe is built around this piece. One coat, worn with complete intention. The rest follows. Piece 2. The structured dark trousers, charcoal or dark earth. Tailored but not stiff. Not suit trousers, not chinos. Something between. A structured trouser that holds its shape without demanding a jacket. Dark charcoal or deep earth tone. The silhouette should be clean, not skinny, not wide. A trouser that belongs on a man who is going somewhere, not performing that he might. The Stoic principle of the mean applies here. The virtue lies between excess. Not the trouser that announces itself, and not the trouser that has given up. The one that simply does its job with complete competence. Virtue in cloth, not excess, not surrender. Exactly enough. Piece 3. The white or bone Oxford shirt. One only. The single point of contrast in the wardrobe. A single white or bone Oxford shirt is not a concession to convention. It is a deliberate point of light in an otherwise dark wardrobe. The contrast it creates, white collar against dark coat, dark trouser, is one of the most commanding visual combinations in men's dress. The Norse were deliberate in how they introduced light into dark spaces. A single candle in a dark room commands more attention than 10 candles in a bright one. This shirt is that candle. 1. Not 3. Not 5. 1. Maintained with complete care. 1 point of light, placed with intention, more powerful than many. Piece 4. The heavyweight knit. Dark charcoal or ash gray, chunky gauge, no logo. The kind of knit that makes a man look like he has arrived from somewhere interesting. Heavy gauge, the stitches visible, the wool substantial. This is not an office layer, it is a fortress layer. The Norse fisherman's sweater was not fashion. It was engineering, a garment built to hold heat and repel water in the North Atlantic. The Viking Gentleman wears its descendant not from nostalgia but because the principle still holds. Function and form are not opposites. The most functional things are often the most beautiful. The most functional things are often the most beautiful. This is not coincidence. Piece 5. The dark denim, raw or rinsed indigo, near black, straight cut. Raw or dark rinsed denim in a straight, clean cut. Not distressed, not faded. Dark enough to work with everything else in the wardrobe. Structured enough to carry a coat over it without looking like an afterthought. Denim earns its place in the Viking gentleman's wardrobe through the same principle that earns everything else its place. It improves with wear. Raw denim molds itself to the man who wears it. It records his life in its fade lines. It becomes, eventually, uniquely his. That is a Stoic principle dressed in indigo. Things of real value require time and use to reveal themselves. Things of real value require time and use to reveal themselves. Piece 6. The leather Chelsea boot. Dark brown or black. Full leather sole. No embellishment. The Chelsea boot is the Viking gentleman's default footwear because it does what the best things always do. It adapts without compromising. Worn with dark denim, it is informal but composed. Worn with structured trousers, it is complete without being formal. Full leather, upper and sole. The sole will wear and can be replaced. The leather upper, properly maintained, will outlast most things in a man's life. Buy quality once. Maintain it consistently. This is not advice about boots. It is a philosophy for everything. Buy quality once. Maintain it consistently. This applies to more than boots. Piece 7. The casual trainer or sneaker. The piece most men own badly. White, cream, or black only. This is the piece most men own badly, and it does more damage to their overall presence than almost any other single wardrobe decision. The problem is not the trainer itself. The trainer is a legitimate piece in any capsule wardrobe. The problem is the trainer that announces itself. The one with the oversized sole, the branded detail, the colorway that asks for attention. The Viking gentleman's trainer is white leather, cream, or black. Clean lines, minimal profile, no visible logo. It functions as a rest note in an outfit. It says, "This man is composed even when he is casual." The contrast with the structured pieces above it creates a deliberate tension that reads as considered rather than effortless. Effortless is a performance. Considered is a practice. The Viking gentleman practices. Piece 8. The dark leather belt. Dark brown or black. Simple buckle. No branding. The belt is not a detail. It is a seam. The place where the upper and lower halves of a man's dress either connect or reveal that he has not thought carefully about either. Dark leather. A buckle that is iron-toned, not gold. No logo, no embellishment. The belt should be invisible unless you look for it, which means it is doing its job perfectly. The Norse smiths had a principle. The finest work is the work that disappears into its function. The best belt is the one no one notices. The finest work disappears into its function. Piece 9. The simple watch. Dark dial. Leather or mesh strap. No date complication visible. A watch is the only piece of jewelry the Viking gentleman wears, and he does not think of it as jewelry. He thinks of it as an instrument. Dark dial. Leather or brushed metal mesh strap. A case that is present without being demanding. The Stoics measured time carefully, not out of anxiety about its passage, but out of respect for its value. A watch that announces itself is a watch that belongs to a different philosophy. The Viking gentleman's watch simply tells the time and tells it beautifully. It does not need to be expensive. It needs to be right. Piece 10. The single iron accent. A ring, a clasp, or a small pendant. Worn daily. Never removed. The final piece is the one that makes the wardrobe personal. A single iron accent, a ring, a simple clasp, a small pendant worn close to the skin. Dark metal, no stones, no ceremony. In Norse tradition, the arm ring was an oath object, worn to bind a man to his word. Odin himself wore Draupnir, the ring of abundance and obligation. The iron accent in the Viking gentleman's wardrobe is not decoration. It is a daily reminder. You have standards. You are bound to them. You chose this. Wear it daily. Never remove it without reason. Let it become part of how you read yourself in the mirror each morning. The man who knows what he is bound to moves differently through the world than the man who has forgotten. Iron on the skin, a daily oath to the man you are becoming. 10 pieces, not 10 compromises, 10 decisions. Every morning you reach for this wardrobe, you are making the same argument. I have thought about what I wear and why. I am not defined by what I own, but I am expressed by it. What I choose to put on my body is a physical extension of the standard I hold for myself. The Viking warrior dressed before battle not to impress his enemies, but to remind himself of who he was going into it. The Stoic philosopher wore simple, lasting cloth, not from indifference, but from clarity about what mattered. The Viking gentleman carries both understandings. He dresses with the deliberateness of the warrior and the restraint of the philosopher. And the result, when it is done right, is something that cannot be performed or purchased.